Ashok Sajanar, former diplomat, also again joining us. Thank you so much for your time. Ashok Sajanar, I would like to ask you, first of all, your views as far as the significance of this meeting, this 3-day visit to the US is concerned. Of course, there are events that we're looking at, including the bilateral, which is in the sidelines of the Quad Summit. But the big headline that you would really expect from the Quad Summit, and also that one big headline that you would expect really from the bilateral with the US President.
Thank you very much, Sneha. I think the bilateral is very important. It's going to, I think, happen anytime now because the Prime Minister has landed there. I think basically this will be a strong message going forward that irrespective of any change that might happen as far as the White House is concerned, India-US relations are very strong and they will continue to grow and continue to deepen further with the passage of time. And today, whether it is in the area of defense or it is in the area of critical and emerging technologies, both the countries are partners in terms of what is beneficial for the two countries, for the two people, but the partnership is of benefit to the whole world. And I think as far as the Quad Summit is concerned, Sneha, again, that Quad is a force for global good. Its agenda has grown several times since the first Quad Summit took place in September. In-person Quad Summit took place in September of 2021 when there were just 3 issues. That is critical emerging technologies, that is vaccines, COVID-19 vaccines, and climate change. Today, it is, the whole issues of whether it is education or it is healthcare or it is infrastructure or it is connectivity or it is humanitarian assistance. All these issues are a part of the Quad. And basically, the message going out strongly that the acceptance of Quad amongst the Indo-Pacific countries is growing, and Quad is providing benefits and tangible concrete goods to the people of the Indo-Pacific. So I think both of them very important meetings that take place today, and it will chart out the course for the future, both in bilateral relations as well as the Quad platform is concerned. Sneha.
Ambassador Sajanar, if I could quickly come in just for 2 seconds. Ambassador Dogra, Sneha, Geeta and I were having this conversation about if India and America are such good friends and it's such a good comprehensive strategic partnership and it's a partnership for global good, why would America do things like a Pannu case or a case in a New York court? And why just a New York court just before, national security and a case against National Security Advisor Ajit Doval or former War Chief Samant Goel? Why would America do things like this if we're supposed to be such great friends?
Gaurav, in my view, let us not conflate with, this Pannu case with America per se. I think as far as there are different elements in all governments and as far as the deep state in the United States is concerned, we are all aware that it has, it takes its own directions in the manner in which it goes. So, and we know what the the perceptions, whether it is the Pentagon or it is the State Department. And all of them have, you have been dealing with it for a long time. I have been posted in Washington, D.C., and I have seen this at first hand. So whatever these issues are happening, don't conflate them with that this is the position of America, this is the view of America. Not at all. I think as far as America is concerned, look at what President Biden says, look at what Mr. Blinken says, look at also what Jake Sullivan says. You see, this whole Gurpatan Singh Pannu, that is a side show. Let's not make it a central show. It is just a mere blip on this thing. No one takes notice. You see, if it was such a big thing, you remember that when Mr. Biden came for the G20 summit, it was just mentioned to the Prime Minister in passing. No one even mentioned about it because so to say. They didn't want to spoil India's party by sort of, raking up issues like this. But then it is moving on a parallel. As far as the court case is concerned, you also know that as far as these courts are concerned, in any democracy, whether it's in India or in the United States, courts have a certain procedure of their own, and they will follow that process. And it is following that process. So let us not, my request to you, Gaurav, and to your channel is, let's not spend time on people like Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, and fine. I'm sure these
except to expose them, except to expose how there are elements in the U.S. State Department or the U.S. deep state who are supporting secessionist forces in India. Even today, they were doing that in the past, but they continue to do that even today, Sneha, and that remains a cause for concern.
All right, but is that going to be a sticky point, and is that something that's going to be coming up in the discussions or not, is something that really remains to be seen? I'm just going to come back to you, Gaurav, in a moment from now, and also to Ambassador Ashok Sajanar and Ambassador Rajiv Dogra. Also, Geeta continues to be with us. Rohit is with us, getting us up to speed with what's happening on the ground. Rohit, where exactly are you right now? We just, in fact, played out that report with the members of the diaspora who are, in fact, just waiting to get a glimpse of the Prime Minister. He's had an interaction with some of them waiting outside the hotel.
Yeah, so the Prime Minister is going to be in the hotel where I'm stationed right now. Sneha, there is a room set up where he's going to be meeting with more diaspora members here in Wilmington. What the pictures we've seen is, he was welcomed at the airport. Now he's going to be meeting with some of the folks who've been lined up since like 7 a.m. This morning just to get a glimpse of Prime Minister and meet up with him. After that, we will be leaving for Mr. President Biden's home. We are part of the traveling pool, so I would be shadowing the Prime Minister the entire day. Today we'll be traveling to President Biden's home. We would be there when the bilateral meeting happens, post which he will head to the Quad meeting. So a lot will happen as soon as the Prime Minister arrives at this hotel, and we'll probably getting a lot of releases, a lot of deliverables. There will be a lot to talk about. But for right now, everybody at the hotel is just waiting for the Prime Minister to arrive so they can interact with him, and then Prime Minister will be on his way, attending important meetings that are slated for him from 1 p.m. until 7 or 8 p.m. tonight.
All right. Be with us. I'm just going to come back to you in a moment from now. Geeta also, of course, continues to be with us as we get in more details on what really is expected. Geeta, what about the Quad Summit? Just tell us, how is that planned? And also, what really is expected as far as the discussions here are concerned?
Well, a few very important things. Now, the Quad Summit is going to take place in some time from now. Prime Minister Modi will be arriving at his hotel. And like Rohit said, that they'll be going to the venue. For leaders, it's going to be a very important, restricted, and then delegation. All of that takes place as per protocol and process, where conversations are held on few very important points. The security architecture of the Indo-Pacific. Quad basically, Sneha, focuses on the Indo-Pacific and all the countries that are involved there to ensure freedom of navigation. And when you say freedom of navigation, again, what the Quad leadership tries to say is that it's not an anti-China bloc. If China wants to be part of it, it'll be good to show respect when it comes to navigating the waters, especially the South China Sea. Having said that, there's one important aspect when it comes to trade, and that was highlighted during COVID, that the supply chain disruption is a major concern. Also, a resilient supply chain, again, is another very important aspect of the Quad conversations. The defense and military architecture in terms of only cooperation on how the two sides are looking at how the four sides are looking at cooperating on that front. But it's the technology and digital aspect that is again a very big agenda item on for the Quad. Artificial intelligence, again, another very important aspect when it comes to conversations amongst the Quad cohort. There is going to be a fellowship that they're going to announce, the Quad Fellowship. And the United States of America has already announced a bipartisan Quad caucus. Now, in the US, there are caucuses for various groups, various regions, countries. There is an India caucus. There's also a Pakistan caucus. There is a Samosa caucus. So there are various caucuses in the United States of America that includes senators and congressmen from both sides, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party.
Yes.
The announcement was made yesterday to have a quad caucus, which will include bipartisan, which will have bipartisan participation from the Republican Party, as also from the Democratic Party, senators and congressmen and congresspersons alike.
Yes.
And that certainly is going to work on how to further Quad's interests. They're also talking about expansion of the Indo-Pacific when it comes to Quad, whether it's a Quad plus or having a lot of other countries participating in Quad conversations is something we'll have to wait and see. The bigger idea over here, if you zoom out a little, Sneha, is how President Biden, in his last few months in office and his last and only term, is going to leave the legacy of a Quad leadership behind. So there are going to be key takeaways, big takeaways, but in terms of continuity, in terms of looking at how they're going to take it forward in the future.
Yes.
The bilateral conversations are going to be very significant. Like Ambassador Dogra and Gaurav Sawant said, that's where the critical security and strategic aspects of the conversations will come out, whether it's with Biden, with Albanese or Kishida.
Absolutely. You know, also, Ambassador Sajjanara, I want to ask you, and this comes at a time when the U.S., when in fact Prime Minister Narendra Modi has in fact been in Ukraine, is met with the leadership. President Zelensky also has had engagements with the Russian president. You know, the world, the West also significantly looking at how India, because of the Prime Minister's proactiveness, has positioned India as a potential mediator. And this is something that really stands out. We're expecting the Prime Minister also, in fact, to have discussions with the US President in the bilateral today on what could be possibly the road ahead, because India is the only country who's talking really to both sides, isn't it?
No, absolutely, Sneha. I think you're very right. I think India is possibly the only or one of the very few countries which has access to both, whether it's the United States and the West, Ukraine on one side and Russia on the other. So I think definitely as far as the bilateral meeting is concerned, as also in the Quad, because you would have seen that the leaders' declaration last time, which issued from Hiroshima in May of 2023, it mentions about the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Also, the foreign ministers' meeting, which took place in Tokyo in July of this year, that also has a very detailed paragraph on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. So I think Prime Minister Modi is definitely going to brief all the other leaders about his discussions, both with President Putin, also with President Zelensky. What is, and I think there's going to be some discussion, although I would be very surprised if there is any significant forward movement that could take place, because I think the positions of the two sides are so far apart. We've also seen that after Prime Minister Modi's visit, briefing to Putin was done not only by Prime Minister Modi himself on telephone, but also by the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval when he was in St. Petersburg for the BRICS NSA meeting. So I think he has the latest information in terms of thinking of both sides, Ukraine and Russia, and a good detailed discussion will take place on the possibilities of the roadmap for the future. But again, I would say that I don't foresee any progress as of now, and I think that much was said by the Foreign Secretary Misri, Vikram Misri, also by the External Affairs Minister himself, that so far we are taking messages from one side to the other. And we'll really have to wait and see as to how much the two sides are willing to compromise. That really depends upon them. It doesn't depend upon us. But at the moment, what we see is that the positions are maximalist on both sides. and the positions are far apart, because Mr. Putin would like to keep the whole of Donbass, all the 4 provinces, and Crimea to himself. And Mr. Zelensky, he wants that total territorial integrity and sovereignty, including Crimea, should be restored back to Ukraine.
I'll just come back once again to you. We'll just get in a quick word from Ground Zero, where my colleague Shweta Singh is also joining us with the very latest. Shweta, give us a sense of what's going on, because we are, putting out those pictures of members of the diaspora interacting with the Prime Minister just as he landed. But exactly are you? Tell us more.
Sneha, I've just landed in New York. My colleague Rohit is in Delaware. But even here in New York, where the event for Prime Ministers, the Indian Diaspora event, which has almost become a tradition here ever since PM Modi has taken over. Think about the Madison Square and how suddenly he took all the world by a storm, that all the Indians, wherever he used to go, used to assemble, and there were chants of Modi, Modi. Now there is a small part of that which you saw when he reached Delaware, and there were Indians who had assembled there. And Indians in New York are also pretty excited that the Prime Minister will be here soon. And specifically when at the UNGA he will be addressing the Summit of the Future. I think that is when the entire world would also want to sit up and take notice what Prime Minister Modi has to say, especially because he's one of the few leaders who went to Ukraine and Russia both, and spoke to Zelensky and Vladimir Putin, and perhaps he's being looked at that perhaps he can get peace to that part of the world where there has been no peace for more than 2 years now. So people here want to know if actually the peace that they've been waiting for can be brokered by the Prime Minister of India, who has equally good relations with both the countries. You've heard what President Biden had to say here. His team has been specifically telling us that he will be speaking to PM Modi on the sidelines of the Quad about what happened in Ukraine, what can be done for Ukraine-Russia peace, and apart from the other issues that the Quad has to address, Sneha.
That's right. Shweta, be with us. I'm just going to put that question to Geeta as well. Geeta, as far as the issue of brokering peace here is concerned, I think the signals from India are as follows, that this is an ongoing process and this isn't going to be easy. But India is going to, in fact, make that effort. I think that is the kind of signaling that has come from India, isn't it? Because like Shweta was telling us also, this has been a war which has been ongoing for almost 2 years or more. And it's a huge concern that both sides are not relenting.
Well, again, a very important question, Sneha, when it comes to can India play peace broker. Now, at this point in time, at this juncture, look at the position that Russia and Ukraine have taken. Russia is quite clear that there is going to be no moving back from at least territories that have now, in a referendum that Russia carried out, have become part of Russia, which is the entire Donbass region that was under Russian control, and Crimea. And if that is the case, then that is an unacceptable future for Ukraine. Ukraine does want a pushback of the troops from the Zaporizhia area, Kherson, so on and so forth. But they also want the Russian troops to withdraw from Donbass and Crimea. That is not going to happen. So there is stalemate over there. Another very important issue is that there was one peace summit that took place and Russia was not there in the room. The second peace summit, they're saying they might have Russia in the room, but the positions that both sides have taken are non-negotiable. So what's India really doing in this scenario? India is playing messenger. You need to invest a lot of capital. The capital has to be economic. The capital has to be political. Is India willing to invest the kind of political and economic capital is the question at this point in time to play peace broker. And that really costs a lot. With the position that India holds, and if you really want to play peace broker, then you'd be in a very uncomfortable position because neither side is budging. So in terms of messaging itself, which is also a very, very important aspect, the fact that they're not willing to sit in a room, the fact that they're not willing to talk, there are no engagements, there's no conversation, they're at war, Sneha, is the reason why this playing messenger also becomes a very important aspect, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi meeting Putin and then also meeting Zelensky becomes a very important part of the conversation that will take place during the Quad meeting, which also will be discussing all the conflicts in the region, whether it's Israel, Hamas,
that's right.
or for that